Guys, welcome to a new video in my channel. If you are new, please like and subscribe. That helps me a lot. Today we're gonna be going over catabolic and anabolic reactions inside of the cell. We're gonna be going some of the catabolic and some of the anabolic reactions inside of the cell and what are they? Because there's multiple. Like you could make 10, 20 hours of video of content with all the catabolic and anabolic reactions going inside in the cell. We're gonna break it down to the most simple stuff. This is a video of the most simple terms, more simple terminology. We might build up in some more complex stuff while the video goes on, but for right now, we're gonna start with the simple stuff. So catabolic reactions are stuff that breaks down. So the way that I remember catabolic reaction is like cat. It's like cat, right? And cats have paws. And with those claws, cats like break down stuff. And anabolic, I just think like, I don't know, it's like an suction and it puts the stuff together. It like helps build stuff. So catabolic, it breaks down stuff, and anabolic, it puts together stuff, it builds stuff, right? So let's look at some stuff. Let's think about monomers and polymers. Nucleotides for DNA is ATGC, and amino acids are for proteins. So what's a monomer, Jesus? A monomer is you can think about it as a Lego piece, right? This would be A, this can be T. It's like a single Lego piece, you know? G, C. But this Lego piece built a structure, and this structure is gonna be a polymer. So a polymer is a bunch of monomers together, and a monomer is the single structure that makes monomers. That. They form long chains of monomers. It's called a polymer, and in this process it's called polymerization, right? So whenever in a polymer, it gets broken down by the paws of the cat gets catalyzed, and it gets broken down into monomers. And in an anabolic, that's like catabolic process. In an anabolic process, you have a bunch of monomers, and they get sucking together, skinny like me, I don't know, right? Anabolic process, and they get put up together, and, right? And that's a polymerization, and that's an anabolic process. Poly, you can think of polyglots, people that speak multiple language, means multiple, and mono means one. Maybe we have heard these terms before: condensation and hydrolysis. They correlate to catabolic and anabolic processes. It's another way of calling these processes. So condensation is A plus B equals BA or AV, which is the same. I just put it backwards. So that's an anabolic process, because they're putting two stuff together. Another way you can think of this to remember is anabolic steroids. You start small and you get put together and you are big now. Anabolic steroids. And whenever you put stuff together, the molecules are gonna spell out a water molecule. And this water molecule is gonna be in the surroundings. Let's say like these are the monomers, and they get put together and they become a polymer, and the water now is gonna be in the surroundings. But it used to be inside of them, but now it's gonna be a polymer with water in the surroundings, but it's like kind of dehydrated in the inside. It's a way of saying. Now hydrolysis is a way of saying catabolic reactions. So the way I remember hydrolysis reactions, and I always tell my friends to do this, is to think of a fireman with a hose. And that fireman, the little fireman over here, with his hat and everything, he has a hose, and he's throwing water into a polymer. He's throwing water into a polymer, so the polymer is gonna absorb a water and the bonds are gonna break. So hydrolysis, the monomers in the polymer are gonna get hydrated, and the bonds are gonna break. So you're gonna have monomers back again. So condensation and hydrolysis are another way of saying the anabolic and catabolic reactions are occurring. For condensation, the water molecules will be outside of the monomers, and for hydrolysis, it will be inside. So for condensation, water will be a reactant, and for hydrolysis, water will be a product. Polymers are also known, or they can be, macromolecules. Macromolecules are really big molecules, right? That's what they call them. Micro is like microscope, like something really small. Macro is something big. Don't get them confused. Macro, big, micro, small. So polymers can be macromolecules. They call it like that because polymers, you get a bunch of monomers, and after that you get a macromolecule or polymer. Monosaccharides are these are the monomers, right? Mono, and these are the poly. So monosaccharides, also known as sugars, are the polymers for carbohydrates. So to go from monosaccharides to carbohydrates, you go through the anabolic process. So that's an anabolic reaction that goes inside of the cell. You go through the anabolic process. And from go to polysaccharides to monosaccharides, you go from a catabolic process. It's the same throughout the line. Amino acids, anabolic process to proteins, proteins to amino acid, catabolic process. Fatty acids to lipids, anabolic processes, lipids to fatty acids, catabolic processes. Nucleotides, anabolic processes, nucleic acids like RNA or DNA. Catabolic processes to go to nucleotides. Monomers are held by covalent bonds. There is covalent bonds and ionic bonds. Covalent is a nonmetal and a nonmetal. And ionic is a nonmetal and a metal. Covalent monomers are held by covalent bonds, nonmetals. And covalent bond could be carbon-carbon, carbon-oxygen, among others. So the following question says, chemical reactions carried out by living systems depends on the ability of some organisms to capture and use atoms from non-living sources in the environment. The specific subset of these reactions that break down nutrients in the food can be described as, and the question should be somewhere around here, right? Or around here. And break down. So let's think about breakdown. Whenever some cats have paws, so whenever they break something down, that's catabolic. Some of you might think in metabolic reactions as one of your answer choices, like why is not metabolic reactions? Well, metabolic reactions refer of metabolism, right? And whenever you like digest something, the metabolism is not only the breakdown of the food, but it's also the buildup of the nutrients that your body uses. So metabolic reactions involve both catabolic and anabolic reactions. If you are interested on this topic, you can go and look at my past video, Oxidation and Reduction Reactions in Metabolism. Let's look at more complex examples of anabolic and catabolic reactions. Let's look at DNA replication. Right, during DNA replication, the template strand, it's gonna be the template for the new DNA. And DNA polymerase, we're not gonna go too much in depth, we're oversimplifying everything. It's gonna grab new nucleotides. They were already specified the nucleotides were monomers. DNA polymers. Because the DNA is a polymer. So it's gonna grab the new nucleotides and it's gonna put them in the 5 to 3 direction. Monomer, 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 monomer. So, is this an anabolic or catabolic reaction? Anabolic. So, RNA replication, more specific, this part of RNA replication is an anabolic reaction. I'm gonna go over all what DNA replication is, but for the DNA replication, there's gonna be two strands, right? And after that, RNA polymerase is gonna come and everything, right? But for that to happen, helicase is gonna unzip the hydrogen bonds that are between the DNA replication. So basically, you have AT, which are nucleotides, right? And helicase is gonna come and cut these that are hydrogen bonds that's happened. So from having two polymers, we're gonna cut and it's gonna break down. So the break of a stuff is gonna be a catabolic reaction. So catabolic reactions, it doesn't only mean from polymer to monomer. It can be from a big polymer to two big polymers, because these are still, like these single strands of DNA are still a polymer. So from going to a double-stranded DNA to a single, that's still a catabolic reaction, and you still have a polymer as a product. I'm just realizing that you couldn't see that part, so that's what I was pointing at. That's the double-stranded DNA that I was referring to. That this is a double-stranded DNA, and those are two polymer chains together, and that's the helicase, and it's like little scissors. Something that I used to remember of how is the helicase is what unzips the DNA is a joke made by Crash Course that it got stuck on my mind. The helicase is like a teenager is trying to unzip your genes. So that was a pretty good joke that I like a lot by Crash Course, and it always helps me remember how helicase is what helps you unwind the DNA. Some stuff that's worth mentioning is how whenever there's repairs in the cell, it's going to be an anabolic process. So if there's a repair done in the DNA and the RNA, maybe an organelle or any repair in the cell is going to be an anabolic because it builds up, right? An anabolic process. Whenever there is a synthesis, like RNA synthesis or mRNA or protein synthesis, whenever there is a synthesis in the cell, that's an anabolic process as well. So let's look an RNA synthesis from DNA during transcription as an example of an anabolic process that's been synthesized. So we know that we read from 3 to 5, because the way I remember that I read DNA from 3 to 5, it's that it's always like you always start from the small to the biggest. So that's like just how I remember that it's easier to do that. But whenever you do hard work, whenever I do hard work, I always start by the biggest dish. Like whenever I'm washing dishes, I do the biggest dish or I do the hardest part of the work. And after I go to the easiest part of the work. So that's the way I read 3 to 5 and I put in or synthesize 5 to 3. So during RNA transcription, I'm synthesizing, which is a synonym for anabolic processes, RNA from 5 to 3.
Support, guys, that's everything. Please like, subscribe, and share. I need to get 500 subscribers before I can monetize, so every subscription really means a lot for me. I really appreciate all the comments. I have gotten 2 really nice comments in my last biology video, and I really appreciate them. I appreciate all the support. Let me know if there's any video that you want me to make, or any subjects you are interested on, or any suggestions to improve the video quality, and I'll try to improve. Thank you.